Everybody, welcome to the Add-ons community meeting for May 18th, 2020. I'm joined today by Sylvain, BJ, Jorge, and I believe Shivam joined the call. So thanks so much for taking the time to join us this morning. I'm just going to kick this meeting off by recognizing some friends of Add-ons. Thanks so much to Erosman and BJ for reviewing Add-ons on AMO last week. We really appreciate it. Thanks for helping keep our ecosystem safe. Oh, yay, we have Shane too. Oh, this is exciting. Okay, so we have a couple of discussion items for this week. One of them, I'm going to hand over to Jorge to talk about some engineering updates, because I know some priorities have shifted. So I just want to make sure everyone is on track with where we are. So kind of in general news, the Mozilla contribute page, the general landing page for Mozilla/contribute has been redesigned and launched. So you can go check it out now. Hopefully it's going to do a little bit of a better job connecting folks to opportunities to volunteer at Mozilla. I think we're still working on getting the links out to some specific areas, but I know the team is taking a look at that. So if you're interested in seeing what else is available, please go ahead and check that out. We also have our intern starting pretty soon. So Lisa is going to be interning with Bob on the AMO team. She's going to be working on creating an AMO homepage curation tool that's going to make it easier for Scott to be able to change featured content on that AMO landing page. So Lisa will be with us for a couple of months over the summer working on this feature. So we're really excited to have her on board. And Atik is going to be joining us in a couple of weeks. His start date isn't for a little bit. Atik is going to be working on the prototype for the extension activity monitor. So what Atik is going to be doing is he's going to be kind of building a privileged extension that we're hoping we might be able to evolve as an in-browser feature at some point. So it's going to show how extensions affect the browser. So specifically, it's going to be another helpful tool for like debugging, problems with Firefox. Like, are they caused by Firefox? Are they caused by an extension? And kind of showing just exactly what the extension is doing to the browser. So this will be a useful tool for extension developers. It'll be a useful tool for kind of some savvier end users, and it's going to be a helpful tool for folks on the Firefox engineering team when some of those bugs come in. So yeah, if you see them around, please give them a warm welcome, and yeah, let them know that we're really excited to have them on board. Any questions about our interns or their projects? Okay, cool. I also wanted to report back a little bit on some add-ons usage trends that we've seen come up during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have seen an increase in extension usage, which is pretty exciting for us. There are certain types of add-ons that we've really seen a spike in. They're kind of like, as one would have predicted, things that kind of help people share entertainment within browser with their friends and family, things that help them do business. So like extensions that make it easy to schedule Zoom meetings. Those have all spiked. So our installs for those have all spiked. So that's pretty cool. One of the things that we're looking at now is some marketing opportunities around this. So we're going to be working with the marketing team to kind of identify some of those marketing opportunities. I've also heard a couple of folks ask about if we're keeping an eye on what Chrome is doing. And we haven't been as focused on that because we've got our recommended extension model, and we feel really confident in our recommended extensions program. But I did take a look over at Chrome to kind of see what they're doing. They have a special section on the Chrome Web Store right now where they've kind of curated a list of extensions for Chrome that, to like working from home, or, be staying at home extensions, I guess is probably the better word to say that. And so not all of those extensions, I think, are available for Firefox. So there may be an opportunity to do a little bit of outreach to those developers and ask them if they'd be interested in porting over to Firefox. Some of the extensions that are on that list are kind of extensions that integrate with Google products like Keep and Google Hangouts. So some of them may not totally be appropriate to port to Firefox. Like I think it's going to be a hard sell to ask Google to make one of their official products available on Firefox. But for some of the more independent developers, it's worth asking. So I started working on a spreadsheet for this last week just to kind of like compare what's out there if there is something on Firefox. I'll share a link to that when it's a little bit more fleshed out. So that, yeah.
I actually use Google Keep on Firefox.
Do you really? What extension? Do you use an extension for that?
No, just keep.google.com.
Okay. So yeah, there's I don't know what the extension does on Chrome, but it talks to it. Anyway,
but the real reason
it's good to know that Google Keep also works on that. The product itself works on Firefox.
But the reason I spoke up is when you reach out to the developers, talk to them about listing parity. I've seen a lot of Chrome developers who come in and say, this is a port of the Chrome, and that's it for the description. They have pictures in the Chrome and the detailed description. They don't move it over. They expect people to know what the Chrome does or expect people to go and find it there.
Got it.
So I just, they have the text, they have the pictures, just move them over. Oh, and some people have trouble finding where to upload pictures.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I tell them, go look, anyone else can do it, and they seem to not come back. They seem to get pictures most of the time.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Thanks for that, BJ.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're still kind of in the beginning stages of kind of feeling this stuff out and seeing kind of what's out there. But I'll keep you updated as we continue to kind of work from home predominantly. Are there any other questions or comments about the COVID-19 trends? Okay, cool. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jorge for a Q2 engineering update.
Okay, so as everyone knows, this year has been special, but fortunately, that was reflected on the plan for Q2, and it's also reflected on the plan for Q3. So we've been able to stay on track for most things that we set out to do. So the work for this quarter is still going along pretty well. The bigger thing that we were working on is the block list. That's still on track. We're targeting ESR 78 for that release, and that's still going on pretty well. We actually just got an initial sign off from QA, just in terms of functionality. But because it's a big change, it's something that's going to require gradual rollouts, and we're going to do that in beta and then on release. And there are also some kind of sub features that we need to also kind of test individually to make sure that are working correctly. But so far, it's looking very good. Still on track, changing the stats processing for add-on usage stats. So instead of using update pings for the add-on stats, we're going to be using telemetry data. That switchover might not happen this quarter. It might happen next quarter because we want to notify developers so that they have time to export their old data if they want to do so, because it's going to change pretty dramatically. So we still have to kind of schedule that. And then the other work on the AMO side is more backend kind of stuff. How did you deal with Firefox account deletions? Some changes to reviewer tools. One that might be of interest for this group is that we're adding more add-ons. Well, we're treating more add-ons similarly to how we treat recommended extensions, in that they get peer review and they also are only reviewable by a certain group of people. So that is going to expand. And I think that one project is probably not going to be finished this quarter. It'll probably extend to Q3. And there's more work following that later in the quarter. But it's just kind of, there are certain add-on types, like add-ons that are developed internally by Mozilla, certain add-ons that are being promoted in some way or another, that we want to make sure are following a similar process than recommended extensions, to make sure that they are up to our standards. So we're kind of making that easier to do on the AMO side. And then on the Firefox side, there's also work on the block list. We're making some changes to permissions to make them to make more permissions optional. That's going to make it easier for developers to add permissions in extension updates. One problem that we currently have is that when users update an extension and the extension requires additional permissions, the users need, well, for certain permissions, users need to accept the new permissions. And that has led to a lot of users being stranded in old versions of the extensions because they don't realize they got the update, or maybe they saw the prompt and they dismissed it, and then they didn't know how to get it again. In those cases, you would get like a little warning icon, as you can see in Caitlin's Firefox. And that's easy to overlook. So we're trying to mitigate that by making it possible for developers to use optional permissions instead. And that means that instead of getting that warning, they would be prompted for the permissions when they are actually needed. So that's also going to be followed up in Q3 with some changes to make optional permissions more visible to users, both on AMO and on the Firefox side. And then there's some ongoing work on Manifest v3 and also on Fission. But yeah, overall, we're on track with what we set out to do for Q2. Some things might spill over to Q3, but that's pretty normal for us. And we already have a draft for the Q3 plan, but nothing we can share at this moment. Oh, and I'll also add that there are a couple of projects that have been, smaller projects that have been kind of in the works for quite some time now. One is two-factor authentication on AMO, and the other is syncing AMO data with Salesforce. And both of those depend on external teams, and that's why they move a bit slower than others. And we always keep them kind of in our secondary goals because they're kind of unpredictable. But they are getting some traction now. So it's possible that we'll finish them this quarter or very soon, at least. So yeah, so that's some unexpected progress we got there. You're muted, Kevin.
Thank you. Just to demystify some of that, so the project to sync the AMO data with Salesforce is not a project to add all of the AMO contact information to Mozilla's, like not to auto subscribe everybody in AMO's database to Mozilla's marketing system. What it is it's going to make it easier for the add-ons team to reach out and do direct communication with developers who are affected by breaking changes. So the whole, right now, we have a pretty complicated process of having to manipulate lists and use Salesforce, which is kind of like our organizational tool for sending official emails to people. Right now, there's like a couple of broken steps in that process because AMO and Salesforce don't talk to one another. So this makes it really hard to reach out to developers and let them know that, hey, we have an API that's changed, it's going to break your extension, here's what you need to do to fix it. So we're really just interested in solving that particular use case. I just want to be totally clear about that, that we're not trying to inappropriately share information or send you more emails. Just want to be super clear about that. And I am really grateful that this is moving forward, because it's just been a really painful process. And, this is information that our developer community needs to succeed. And then I just want to make sure, because sometimes we throw a lot of jargon around. So Fission is an ongoing project that's happening on I don't know what the team is named anymore after our reorg from a few months ago, but it's working on Firefox internals to make things run in separate processes. I hope someone interrupts me if I'm wrong, but Fission is kind of happening at like some lower levels. So there are going to be a couple of changes for some extension developers, but we're really trying to mitigate any breakages. We just want to make sure things continue to run. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely want things to run. That's what we want. All right, cool. Any questions about engineering? Okay, we're in the process right now of planning for Q3 engineering. So once we have a little bit more, once that's a little bit more solidified, we'll share that out as well, so folks kind of know what's coming up next quarter. Since it's almost the end of Q2, which is terrifying to me, but I don't know if anybody else is having problems with time right now. Cool. And then one other project that's kind of ongoing, but it's a little separate from the bulk of the engineering work with Firefox and AMO, is extension workshop. So we kind of have an ongoing project to improve how extension workshop shows up in search engine results. We had listed extension workshop as a potential internship project for the summer, because there's some ugly stuff happening behind the scenes during the build process that's making it kind of difficult to make updates to it. So we've decided that since our intern isn't going to be moving forward with that project, we're going to go ahead and unblock a couple of engineering bugs that we think are going to help improve the SEO. And then we're also likely going to be experimenting with some content changes on extension workshop to try to match those a little bit closer to common search terms. And so right now, if new developers are trying to learn how to build an extension for Firefox, they should land on the MDN tutorials, which is what we want. But we also just want to make sure that extension workshop pops up a little bit more for some other common queries. All right, cool. The last thing that I wanted to ask about is we had a couple of questions come up last week about testing add-on code coverage and whether or not developers would find some tips for how to do that to be helpful. So at our last community meeting, we shared a project by one of our add-on developers named Lucido, who shared kind of his process for for testing code coverage. So I just wanted to ask this group, which includes some extension developers, like, do you do code coverage tests for your extension? If you do, what do those look like? Do you think that that would be helpful to share with other extension developers?
Personally, we don't at my work.
What about you, Shivam?
No, we don't write code tests that much.
Jorge, did you ever do code coverage tests when you were developing?
A long time ago, we did that. Before I joined Mozilla, really, we had a system, but it was a custom-made thing that, yeah, we didn't use any existing system.
Okay. I mean, is this something that developers would find useful? Maybe certain kinds of developers, like developers whose extensions integrate with business products?
I think the larger extensions might benefit from that. The smaller ones have too little code. I think the overhead would be too much.
Okay. Okay, that's really helpful. If anyone has any further thoughts about testing code coverage, please let me know. That would be helpful to kind of figure out if we need to write something up or share it, add it to our list of help articles. Cool. So those are my planned updates for this week. I want to open up the floor now for any other questions or comments. Okay, very cool. Well, I will let everybody get back to their Mondays. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy, including mental health. So I will see all of you online, and take care. We'll see you again in 2 weeks, I think.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yes, we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.